Hi, my name's Rachel McLeod. I am a licensed clinical social worker and emotional wellness coach. And today I want to talk with you about reactions, compulsions, and cravings. And I want to talk about this because, when you engage in these enough, you really question yourself and you wonder if you're just weak. And I want to answer that question today because I want you to look at this from a totally different perspective. Because a lot of times, the perspective we're looking at things with through that lens can really keep us stuck. And if you really understand what's happening here, then you can really solve your way out of this as opposed to getting stuck with the question of, am I weak? Um, and we know that when we ask these types of questions, we're setting up a really powerful function in our body to really start taking us apart. And because your brain has to answer your questions. And if you say, "Am I weak?" Well, it's going to go in and try to find some answers, and it's going to bring you out all this evidence that may or may not mean that you're weak, but it sure is going to feel like it because it's going to say, "Hey, what about all these things?" And as you look at them, you're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, that's not very good. Looks like the answer is yes, and I don't like that answer, and so, I'm just gonna numb that out and blank it out, and maybe I'm gonna dissociate or, right? I mean, there's so many options that we do during that time, and so many of us, it's a very smooth path. We just ask the question, next thing you know, we're in a downward spiral, and then we have to cope our way out, and a lot of times, what our brain turns to for coping is not something that we really value or we want to be doing, but we just need to stop the pain. And so we do it. And that delivers me right into reactions, compulsions, and cravings. And so I want to talk about what those are. You know what they are, but what we find is that when we have reactions, these are all functions of the survival system, which is your limbic system, and it's that very emotional center and very that's how it works. It's not a thinking center. It's not a place where you get choices. You don't, when you get into that part of the brain, you don't get options and you don't get morals and you don't get values and you don't get thinking. Right. And that's what's really frustrating because we do these things and they're not even aligned with our values. It's because of the part of the brain that you're working from. And if you stay working from that part of the brain, you won't get choices or options. You will only get reactions, compulsions, and cravings. So, so let's open that up a little bit. Reactions are reactions, right? They are just react. They're not responses. They are not considerations. They are reactions, and these things can be from angry outbursts or making a defensive comment, or it's like slamming your foot on the gas when you're driving because you're reacting to a situation that's going on. Or it can be a reaction to um, apologize for something that you really didn't need to apologize for, or a reaction to um, news that's happening. You just react. Maybe you go to your neighbors, or you post something on Facebook, right? So you're just having a reaction. It's just do, right? And that's happening very quickly. And you're that survival mode. It's a survival reaction. It is, the design is just to keep you alive and keep you going to the next day. And when we talk about keep you alive, that's based on your brain's interpretation, right? The things that your brain knows keeps you alive is very animalistic, very pack animal type. If you are rejected from the group, this in our pack animal language, you are left to die, because that's our part of our defense mechanism as humans, is to be in a group. If you're by yourself, the lions are going to grab you and drag you off and eat you up as their snack, right? So we are programmed not to be rejected. It's actually processed in the body, in your brain. The same place being stabbed in the gut is processed in your body. And so being rejected is as strongly avoided as being stabbed in the gut. So that's a thing. No human wants to be rejected. And we will react when we perceive that that is a threat, because our survival center is paying attention to that. And it says, move over, thinking center. I got this. And that's literally what happens in your brain. Your survival center decides when it's going to, it gets priority. Your survival is the priority. And really, you want that, because anybody who wasn't set up like that is gone. Like, they're out of the the gene pool, because they wouldn't have lived and they wouldn't have survived. So you want it, but you want it to be accurate. You want it to be making interpretations based on what's actually happening, not just ideas of what's happening or fears and threats of what's happening, which is what happens when you have disorders of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, right? Especially with trauma, the body remembers, and the survival center is alert to it, and it's like, whatever that was, we're not doing that again. And oh, this looks like it could be that, we're not doing that. And it's like you get stuck in survival mode, and that survival mode drives the bus. And so when it does that, it takes over your entire nervous system. It takes over all of your organ functions. It takes over your thought processes, and it shuts down your thinking center. It is not, your thinking center is not as active, and it's hijacked and made to do the things that the survival center wants it to do. And that's why when we're in that survival state, we're not behaving like we want to behave. And it's really, really frustrating. It feels very disempowering, and it feels very out of control. And guess what? It is. It is not within your control. It is within your survival center's control, which is based on all kinds of things, your instincts. And your subconscious programming, right? That's where we're pulling from. This is what your mom did to survive. You've got to do that. This is what your great aunt Lisa did. You got to do that to survive, and those things, just your subconscious mind just pulls from these things and combines this thing, and out it goes, and you just react. And so, and and then what happens then is, once you react and your survival center says, okay, we took care of it, right? We took care of that threat. We're good. Now it calms down and says, okay, thinking center, regular function, go ahead, go back in survival mode off. And your thinking center comes back on, and you're like, what the heck did I do? And this is the same thing for compulsions and cravings, right? So after your thinking center comes back on, you're like, oh my gosh, I ate that entire bowl of ice cream. Oh my gosh, I went to the store, bought 4 bags of chocolates, ate all of them except for those last 3. And now my brain's turned back on, and now I'm like, holy crap, what have I just done? And you did what you needed to do to survive, right? But you didn't really need to survive. You didn't need to go into survival mode, but you did. And then you do the things that you need to do to survive. And that might be cutting remarks, right? And what happens is, now in these reactions, we're pulling up compulsions, which compulsions are things that you feel compelled to do. Compulsions can be anywhere from seeking excessive reassurance, making 3 doctor's visits a month just to, do I have coronavirus or do I not? Do I have cancer? Do I not? Do I, that's a compulsion. Washing your hands, because I know I caught this germ right now. And washing hands right now is a big deal. So I'm not talking about regular, like, just be a little bit more aware. I'm talking about compulsive hygiene habits, that are for the purpose of survival, and that are under your survival, that are pushed by survival needs, and that you feel compelled to do these. Saying different things. Oh, thank you, Colas. um, I'm glad you said something, and I'm glad you're here. Too funny. Okay, so compulsions. So when you're compelled to do something, these are things that that are really frustrating to you, because logically they don't make any sense, and they're not necessary. Um, and but you feel that they are. And what happens is, the compulsions are a type of anxiety, right? Your nervous system, your survival system says, if we don't say this right now, if we don't go back and make this thing better, or I don't think we said that right. We need to go back and unsay it, but you can't unsay it. So we're going to just say this and this and this, okay? And so once it does that, and you're like, okay, look, it's not that serious. We're not doing that. And it's like, no, really, 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 it is, and it will do this. But I want you to remember, your survival system has access to all of your nerves. It has access to, like, all the motherboard of your nerves, your organs, everything. So if you don't listen, it just keeps pumping up the volume. It says, oh, you didn't listen to that one? Oh no, for realsies. You need to go back and apologize. No, you need to go back and you need to make that appointment with your doctor. You need to call your son's teacher and see this, and you need to call your mother-in-law and make sure she feels included. I know you called her twice already, but you need to call her this third time, because if you don't, and it reminds you of all the things. And the first one that might just be like discomfort, right? But then next thing you know, you've got nausea. And then it's like, yeah, you didn't listen yet? Okay, boom. Let's press the racing heart button. Okay, go ahead, go. And now you've got racing heart and you've got nausea, and you don't want to make that call because you don't, and then your subconscious mind is like, okay, survival mode. Yeah, remember this last time when you didn't invite her and that happened, and this could happen again, and it's survival mode has to go. I mean, your subconscious has to work with your survival center. And so it starts to tell you all the things, whether it likes to or not, because it's also not a thinking center. It just does what it does, which is reminds you of all the things, everything that's stored in there to make you do the things. And then the next thing you know, you still haven't listened. Okay, all right, let's make you feel like you're choking. Suffocation mode, go. And now you feel like you're suffocating. And now you've got panic attack going on, but guess what? You've been down this path of compulsions before. You know that where it's going, and you know that it's going to be hell to get off of, and that it could only get worse. And so at some point you call her for the third time, or you make the third appointment with your doctor, or you do whatever the heck your brain is telling you to do, because then it shuts off and you can come back into regulated mode. Now you're like, oh my gosh, they think I'm crazy because I've just called for 3 times for an appointment. And I know I don't have it, but I had to. I just had to. And if I don't go to the appointment, right? So now you're a hostage to your survival system. And then you're looking at yourself and you're watching these behaviors that you can't seem to stop doing, that are not right, but you can't, and now you just feel like you're weak, and then don't get the cravings going, and we crave all sorts of things. We crave comfort is really what we're craving in all of its form, because comfort is what regulates your nervous system. It's what we're supposed to be given to little kiddos all the time, because it helps them. You get distressed and then comfort brings it down. Well, if you're like comfort deprived, or you've got things that can't be easily comforted, or you don't know how to comfort it yourself, you're seeking that magic thing. You're seeking what will lead you to comfort. And what's and so and cravings are a similar type of anxiety, right? I mean, you it tells you, let's go to Dairy Queen and get that, I don't know, Blizzard. I think that's what they're, anyway, it's been a while. So you go to get the Blizzard, and you're like, don't think Blizzard, because if I do that, then I'm gonna have to do the craving things, and then I'm gonna have to go get and next thing you know, I'll be there. And so you do everything you do just not to get the word Blizzard in your head, and I just put it in your head. So you're welcome, Dairy Queen. But once you got on the path, if you don't do the first, second, third compulsion, craving, the next thing you know, the anxiety increases. Next thing you know, you're restless and you paces, because your survival mode is pressing all the buttons, and you can't get it to come back down. And so you just know, I'm gonna go get and then your subconscious says, yeah, we want comfort. Remember that last time you had one, how good it was? That was fabulous. And then you're like, yeah, it was, because I've got a client, her subconscious mind distracts her. That's what it does. I love her. She's fabulous. But it is really it's an odd thing, because how it's set up is it entertains her. And so she'll just be entertained into not accomplishing anything all day long, but she's happy, right? But her survival system is set up to make sure that she stays out of danger, because it will be dangerous to be as successful and powerful as she actually is. Right? And so our subconscious mind has amazing strategies. Sometimes you're distracted. You don't even know you're distracted. You just think, you're just following the next good time. But you're way off in left field, right? So, but the thing about these cravings is that they come at you from every different direction. And if you don't do it, it's not okay. You don't feel okay in your body. So finally, you just go ahead, do the compulsion, the craving, and you all of a sudden feel good again, and you're regulated. But now you did the thing you didn't want to do. right? You were craving some intimacy, so you called your ex-boyfriend, or you were craving some connection, so you called that person at work that's been hitting on you for a really long time. You were craving sweets, and so you got the ice cream. You were craving anything, right? We're craving comfort. You wanted a hug, and so you got what you could get, whatever. And so, but this is a survival strategy, because we actually need these things. We actually need protection. We actually need safety, and we actually need comfort. And your system is wired for that. And if you can't get these in healthy ways that actually work, because people tell you, oh, just breathe through it. Well, if breathing doesn't work, you're stuck with the same problem. And your nervous system, your brain is on fire. Your survival center is like pressing all the alarms, and it's pressing all the buttons. And there you are, miserable. And so they tell you something, and that might not work for you. And then they say this and they say that it might not work for you. And let me tell you what, if it's not a strategy that actually helps your survival system decide to step away from the keyboard, pressing all the buttons, making sure you can't breathe and you're suffocating and you're panicking, if you can get, if your interventions pull that survival system away from that, which is what eating, marijuana, alcohol, fighting, that's what it does. It helps that release that energy and just move it out of the way. But there are other really great interventions as well that will move your survival system out of the way, so that your thinking center could come back on, which is where your inner healer is. And now all of a sudden you can do the healing work that you need done. And you don't have to go into the reactions, the compulsions, or the cravings. And literally, this is what happens. And this is how I break people through cravings and compulsions and reactions. And we should expect that breakthrough, that not to have to live in that, because nobody should be living in survival mode. These are all survival mode strategies. And guess what? Survival mode is stronger than anything you have. And that's where we come to, are you just weak? And the fact of the matter is, let's set that question aside for a second, because we've asked that question like a billion times. Let's go to the truth. Your survival center is that strong. And I don't think we give attention to how powerful the brain is. The brain is what has accomplished all of our technology. The brain is what has accomplished all of anything you see today. It is brains. And I don't think you understand how powerful this system is. And when this system is working against you, can you really stand up under that? No, not one human can. Period. Period. And I think this really allows for us to bring in compassion, because you're not going to win with your brain working against you. It's not going to happen, right? Divide and conquer. If you can get your brain on the same page, if you guys can start speaking the same language and you can start meeting its needs, and all of a sudden it starts coming into alignment and it's coming together and it's working as a team, you're unstoppable. But if it's out, there is not a thing you can do. You are swimming up water. Nope, stream. You're swimming. Let's look at that. You are swimming upstream constantly, which is exhausting. And then you're swimming upstream, and you might be moving backwards down the river. And that's exhausting as well. It feels just like, well, just give up already. And that's not the answer. The answer is no, you need to start working with your brain and get it to come into alignment for you, because that's where it is. If your dream life, if your survival system thinks your dream life is going to be death, you're not ever getting to your dream life. Let me tell you that. That's not going to happen, because survival mode will not allow you to walk through the door there. And that's why you stand on the outside. You're like, but why? Can I just go there? And maybe it's you, your dream life is you with 70 pounds off, right? Having lost 70 pounds. But all of a sudden your survival center says no, because now you're in danger of male attention. And those people aren't safe. And now, remember that time that you got raped? That could happen again. No, This weight right here stays right here, because this is where we're safe. Let me tell you, that weight is not coming off. And you might budget 30 pounds, but it will come right back, and it might double, because your survival center is like, I can't believe she did that to us. She exposed us to danger. Okay, if she does that again, she's going to have to do it twice as hard, because we're going to put twice of it on. So that way, if she loses 30 pounds, we're right where we want to be. None of this skinny stuff. None of this in shape, healthy stuff. That's too much attention. You can't get past your survival state. You can't. It's like what you're asking your brain to do is, let's just die. and you have to have a really different subconscious program to actually accomplish that. And that's it. That happens. That really does. But in the meantime, most humans cannot get to that kind of subconscious programming. And so your brain is like, no, I'm not doing that. And so there's all kinds of self-sabotage that will come in to keep you where you need to be. If having a promotion and making 3 times your current salary, if that means that your entire family is going to reject you because now you're one of those rich folks, now we can't, you don't understand us. And we're jealous and we're going to talk about you behind your back. Now you're out of the pack. And that's, remember, processed by the brain the same way being stabbed in the gut is. So you can't be stabbed in the gut willingly. I mean, you can, but like I said, it's a whole different subconscious programming. But my point is that that is powerful. That is powerful. And it's not about you being that weak. It's not. It's about your brain being that powerful. And that's really the deal. So I want you to respect that. I want you to respect your brain. And let me tell you what, don't fight that. Let me tell you what willpower is. Willpowering things is you saying, I know you don't want to go this way, and I know you don't want to go this way, but we're going this way. Good luck. That's not going to work. I'm just going to tell you that right now. That's not going to work. Your brain is entirely too powerful for that. When you relax, it's coming on. When you go to sleep, it's coming on. Because your subconscious mind is working day and night, night and day. Your survival center is working day and night, night and day. Your consciousness, no, not so much. It goes to sleep because your subconscious mind has lots of work to do. Your physical body has lots of work to do when you're sleeping. And so you're supposed to be sleeping anyway. And I'm going to get to this dream situation. So this is what's going on. So you're not weak because you keep making that phone call to your doctor, or you keep, being defensive and reactive and yelling at your kids all the time when you're like, I don't even want to be doing that. Like I am inside, I am a gentle mom and I don't know why the heck I keep doing this. Or I am a great dad. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I'm, or the compulsion to be passive aggressive, or the reaction it just flies out of your mouth, passive aggressivity, or maybe just aggressiveness, the reactions of turning down promotions or hiding when you're being called on, right? And the cravings, like these things, these are very powerful. You are not weak. And I want to save you some looking at the wrong problem time. Don't look at that problem. I mean, okay, you're going to look at it because I just said don't look at it. But I want you to understand, when you're looking at that, you are looking at the wrong problem. That is not it. And if you solve that problem, which you cannot, you're missing the opportunity to solve the real problem, which is you are living in survival mode of one type or the other. That is the entire problem. And if you can solve that problem, all of a sudden you get to go into the part of the brain where you get to choices. You get to choose if you're going to do that compulsion or not. You get to choose without being punished by your own self, by your own brain. This is where the freedom comes in. This is where life gets like that, right? This is where your authentic self gets to actually live, and not your authentic self that's being hijacked all the time by survival mode. However much you're going into survival mode is however much you're missing out on being your authentic self and living authentically true to you. And that is, I mean, that's why this is really the only work I help people do, because I don't find people need help with the other stuff from me. And that this resolves every piece of, this is how I help people eliminate symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress in 2 to 6 months instead of 2 to 6 years, right? It's just the same work, just you can do it with whatever speed you want, right? And it's just really shifting yourself out of survival mode. And that means you have to be really good at talking to your survival center. And then you got to reprogram your subconscious mind. And there's a very simple process that goes along with that you can replicate over and over and over and over and over again. So, but this really, I'm saying that to give you hope, but really I want to also give you the truth that this is not about your weakness, and weakness can be resolved anytime. Like if there's an area you don't have enough strength in, build it. Okay, whatever, but let me tell you, there's never going to come a time where you're going to ever be stronger than your brain. It's just not how it works. You can't build enough muscle to be stronger than your brain, and it will reroute around you. It's like, oh, she just learned this new thing. Okay, everybody, we need something. We need to be able to stay in our comfort zone, which is right here. Whatever your life looks like right now, this is actually your comfort zone right here. You don't even have to like, I wonder where my comfort zone is. No, it's right here. If you look around at everything going on in your life, it's your comfort zone. But you're like, yeah, but that's really bad. I don't like it like this. I'm sorry. If you want to make changes with what your life looks like right now in your future, you have to change your comfort zone. And that means you have to get out of your comfort zone. That means you have to take steps to get out of your comfort zone. And guess what? When you do that, your entire brain is going to freak out. And so the faster you get support, the faster you get the tools to help your brain go from freak out back into calm, to shift from your survival center into your thinking center, the faster you get out of suffering. And that's really the deal, is that we need to get out of suffering. Growth doesn't happen through suffering. I know there's like sayings that say that. It's not. Actually, growth is a natural byproduct of the brain. You don't need to suffer to accomplish that. Now, we're good at suffering, so you know that's a habit that we have, and there are some times when suffering is part of it, but you don't have to add to it. I mean, it's just not. Sometimes we believe that it's the essential component, so we keep it around longer because we really want, it's really valuable to us, and if we need to suffer for it, then we're going to do it. We're going to put our suffer time in. But that's part of subconscious programming, is that I need to suffer a little bit to really be able to really be able to change and be the person I need to be, or to make sure that I really feel it and take it into my heart. Um, so, um, so anyway, those are some thoughts I have for you. If this is something that is really like, you are at a place where you're like, I need to get out of this mode. I need to get out of survival mode. And I need to get into action and really take my life back. If that's what's coming up for you, I invite you to grab a spot on my calendar, and I invite you to talk with me. I offer a complimentary conversation around this stuff, and really to take a look at what's not working for you, to really get a close-up view, right? Because from here, I can't really do that specific to you. What's going on, what you really want, and to help you create a plan to get there. And if having my support to do that is what you're really feeling called to, we'll discuss that. And if not, that's okay too. I just want to get you moving, but you must be in a place where I am sick and tired of these symptoms ruling my life, and I'm ready to take some action. So if you're there, I invite you to grab a spot on my calendar. That's rachelmcleod.com/call. Right now, I am working with women only. However, if you are a man and you're like, no, for real, like we need to have this conversation, go ahead and grab a spot. We'll talk. Um, um, yes. So let me see. So I'm going to answer now the questions here, because now we're going to take it all off into the land. Uh, Al says, why don't I remember dreams? Al, I don't know the answer to that. I'm just going to tell you right now. And I don't know why I don't know the answer to that. I love to work with dreams. There's like all the subconscious material is in there, and the brain doesn't need to be literal to heal. And so dreams are a really wonderful way to work through subconscious material and resolve things. So I am interested in that. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not a big into sleep analysis. But perhaps there will be an expert that sees this, and I will keep asking that question. If I get the answer, I'll do a live about it. And if not, then we'll just look around in the world. But sorry, I don't have any more information than that. I have a lot of not having dreams, and then I have times of having dreams. I don't know what the difference is there. But I think as long as you're getting into REM sleep, your brain is doing what it wants to be doing. As long as you're getting into the right sleep cycles, which that I think is really an important thing. Not my field of expertise, but if you're not remembering, I don't think that that's the important piece of the process, in my opinion, which in sleep understanding is not super valuable. Okay. Oops. I missed down this page. And Michelle, good. I'm glad I'm making sense to you because I that's my intention. Does that make sense? And then really help you understand this problem as it's really going on, not as like the myths. The myths aren't going to get us out of this. The truth of the matter is this is a survival system challenge, and you can absolutely move out of it. And then Cola's comfort, I hear it. Yeah, it's vital. It's absolutely vital to everything that we're doing, and it can be really difficult based on it can be really difficult to get the comfort you need based on your belief system, right? If you have a belief that you don't deserve comfort, it's really hard to get it because your survival system is like, no, this is, it's a very complicated thing, but that's what happens. Sometimes people have comfort combined with punishment or abuse. And so if I get comfort, then I'm going to get abuse. And that's a really hard thing to really get comfort for, because then you're going to need comfort for the getting comfort, and it's just a hot mess, right? So there's things that keep us away from comfort, and then there's things that keep us in the wrong comfort, and and then we go on because we do have a need for comfort, and that need needs to absolutely be met, replenished, and put and experienced in abundance, and we absolutely can do that, and it needs to happen. um, and does brain size have meaning? I again do not know. I've been thinking about that myself. You're asking me some really big questions, and let me tell you what. I'm going to turn my heater off because it's really crazy at the moment. Okay. So, brain size. Where was I? Does brain size have meaning? Golly, Al, if you remember where I was at, feel free to post again. Let's see if it comes back to me. Nope, it's gone. It might come back again though, but it has left the building or the awareness center. Who knows how that works? Oh, I was going to tell you, this is what it was. It did come back. There's a field called interpersonal neurobiology, and I love these humans because they basically translate brain science to therapists and healers. And this is really cool because if I was going to learn brain science, my eyes would cross, right? But I want to learn brain science because it has like the keys to what we're doing, right? And what brain science people is, they take the work that therapists do and they see what's going on in the brain, and they hook things up to functional MRIs, and they see how the brain is firing, and then they study it and they make out these reports, and then who can read those things? I mean, it feels like it would take me years, and perhaps I have some beliefs I need to work through. But next year, 2021, I told myself, is the year I dive into brain science. So, but in the meanwhile, there are some really phenomenal interpersonal neurobiologists that are doing that translation. Like, this is what the science says, this is how you apply it to, this is how it could be applied in therapy, in the actual art of it, in the actual art of healing. And I stand pretty firmly in the art of healing camp. That's my expertise, is to know how the brain works and apply it, and then empower people to do it over and over and over again to create amazing healing. And so so some of this stuff is like, I'm busy over here because I'm on the streets. No, I'm not on the streets. I'm on the streets doing the work, right? And helping people pick up the skills. But the people in my back pocket are the interpersonal neurobiologists, because I'm telling you what, I can't look at those letters, fMRIs, and P is greater than 0.006. I mean, I just know that the statistics and all that stuff. I appreciate them, but I don't want to give up what I'm doing here and getting this information out and helping people really heal with it, to dive into the nuts and bolts of all those things. And so that's really one of the reasons why I don't have the information, and why I may never have the information. And so, just so you know who you're dealing with. So, so I don't know if brain size matters. Can you touch a bit on self-sabotage? Yes, this is the process of self-sabotage. This is when your survival mode is alert, like we're in danger. Your subconscious mind is like, I hear you, buddy. Because up in here, our life is supposed to look like this. We're supposed to have people in here that drain us, and we're supposed to have people like we were taught this system when we were children, and this is how it's supposed to be. And so your subconscious program is here, and it's like the survival center says, this is dangerous. I don't even know what we're doing over here. We've never seen this before. I don't know. Like now she's like a size 6 or 7 or an 8, whatever. I don't know. And I'm just not comfortable. There's new things happening. I don't like this. And this is like, yeah, man, I don't know either. This isn't match. And I know she's like made 100,000 extra dollars this month. I mean, this year, or maybe this month. And I don't know either. And these two like start like the survival mode is like, shh, I'm pressing the buttons. I'm pressing all the buttons. I'm pressing, I'm pressing nausea. She doesn't like that one. That one really gets her. And then these guys go back and forth, and pretty soon the nausea's going on. So now you're having this success. You're getting in shape. Your finances are changing, and you're uncomfortable, and your body is going against you, right? And there's some cognitive dissonance here. Your reality looks like this, but your subconscious program is down here. The subconscious program does not like this. The subconscious mind needs these things to be together. This is a concept of lots of different things. This is what has to do with prejudice right now going on, and racial stuff, and transgender stuff, and the changes that are going on in our world, that are not like, I mean, basic human rights shouldn't be a change, right? But it's a change. And everyone's dealing with it in different ways. And what's happening is that they feel this is what reality is showing, but they feel this way, and they see all these things. And so it's like the brain is trying to fight to come back, right? And because it's hard to change the outside world, and you got the inside world, and that's what it is. It's really changing the outside world versus the inside world. The outside world has to match up with this. That's their brain's entire function, the subconscious mind. So if you take any issue, that's what's going on. The outside world has to match the inside world, whether it has to do with your weight or it has to do with your family function. Your family function is set at a program, and if it looks like this, you've got problems, right? Even if it's awesome, but if it's not awesome, you got problems, because you're like, hey, it's supposed to be better than this. But if it is, and then it's like our community. If our community looks like this and our subconscious mind looks like this, no, it's supposed to look like this. There's problems, right? And then you go up to your city. If you believe your city should look like this and it looks like that, like you've been raised in the country and you're in a city now, like right? And your subconscious mind is to get things to match the internal world. That's its commitment. And so it's going to try to replace, like, affect the external world so that it comes down to match the inner world. Okay, and so on any level, whether it's inside yourself, in interpersonal, within you and your relationship, or in your family, or in your community, or in the world at large, it's the same function, right? The outside world has to match the inside world, and there's changes all the time that we're running into. We're like, hey, that's not right. And we don't know. We just have all these feelings now because our survival center is going off, because we're going to die. If we're doing something different, we're going to die, because we don't know what this is. We're going to just die. Like, it's very extreme in there. We're either safe or it's dangerous. We're safe or we're in danger. And then all of a sudden you're activating a lot of processes, which is which is self-sabotage, and sabotage of other people, and the sabotage of countries, and the sabotage of movements. And that sabotage, not just self-sabotage, happens because your inner world, your subconscious mind, works really hard to bring this down. Okay. And so when you bring it down, now it says, oh, this is where we're supposed to be, even though it hates it, even though it doesn't like it, even though it's terrible, even though now I'm back into, 270 pounds, and I'm miserable, but I'm okay. I'm not having any symptoms of anxiety, but I feel pain, and now the depression's kicking up. But I'm feeling okay, and I'm used to depression because that's where I'm set to. That's how my family lived. So here I am. I'm okay. This is normal. This is what life is supposed to look like. And so while that programming is there, it will always bring you back. And there are strategies to work on that, because really what we want, and this is where our problems are here. I'm confusing myself because anyway. What happens is when you hold this and you say, you know what, I am not moving this. I am not budging the fact that I want to be at this level of health. And that's what I'm going to do. Now have to fight against all the subconscious strategies to bring the outside world down to the inside setting, right? And if you hold on to this, there is a lot of problems until this part works its way up. Okay. And so that's what a lot of what in the outside world at the global, at the national level looks like is there's a lot of this going on. This is what we want. And this is how it is, right? And it's and by saying, okay, well, no, all right, we'll just lower it. By saying no, we're not. Now there's sabotage going on, right? Internal processes of self-sabotage. And like there's an internal struggle to bring things back to how we know things are supposed to be. And so it comes back down. And this happens, like I said, with one of us, it happens with all of us, it happens collectively. And so, but there are strategies to minimize the survival and subconscious programming. And that's something we should always be upgrading. Always. We're always going to outgrow our subconscious programming. Always. And what happens when you have distress and you have that, "Ugh, I'm not where I want to be and I can't get there," it's because your subconscious hasn't reprogrammed yet. And as long as it doesn't match where you want to be, you're gonna experience distress because you're in the process of creating a new comfort zone. And so when you hit that process of creating a new comfort zone, that's really um, that's a challenging process that not many people can do well because the survival center will sit on them and it will agony and right we're going to lose our place in our community and we're going to like threats and danger and all that every one of us right now personally as we try to get to our goals is going through that and then as we're trying to create change or maintain things the way they are right because that's where camps can set up is I want things to stay the way they are or go back to the way they were. I want things to move forward and internally, we have the same situation, right? And then it gets bigger as in our communities and whatever. And everyone's frustrated with everybody because it's causing this causing the survival mode to just go. And we don't feel comfortable and we're nauseous and people are having diarrhea, right? Because it's in intestinal distress too. I mean, your survival system has access to all of that. It says, oh, you're not listening. Yeah, diarrhea. Go. Um, and it can just really hit that. And lots of people think so, I have an illness. No, you have anxiety, depression, or traumatic stress lots of times, right? And I'm not discounting physical problems. I will tell you that there is an emotional component to all physical problems. Period. Um, and so when you can resolve the emotional component, a lot of times everything else will shift as well to a new state, right? And so so when we have self-sabotage, I went big there for a second, but I want you to see this principle is everywhere. Once you master your own inner world, all of a sudden you start to see this happening everywhere. And you're like, oh, this person's seeking comfort. And you're working with this whole project in an entirely different way and on an entirely different level. Because what happens is when people are in survival mode, there are only a couple strategies that will work with this. But if you get great at dealing with your survival mode, you can deal with anybody else's survival mode. You'll know what to do with it when it happens. And then you can really be effective with working with that. And then you're going to get more people in their thinking center and being able, which is where problem solving takes place and where you reprogram your subconscious mind in your survival state, where you can really get those things to to reprogram. Like now the same thing can happen, but your survival system doesn't need to say, okay, let's press the button. Now it's like, oh yeah, that's not dangerous. We thought it was, but it wasn't. But if you don't know how to have that conversation with your survival center, it's just going to keep pressing the button and you're going to have to stay reactive, right? And so self-sabotage is that same thing, is that we're really looking for that comfort zone. We want to be comforted. We want to be in a comfortable place, and that's what we're looking for. And that's right. No matter what people are reacting or compulsives or compulsions or cravings, the need there is comfort and safety. And there was another one, but it's out of my mind at the moment. But having said that, um, that's really what self-sabotage is. And very few people and very few times can really hold under this until the subconscious mind changes. And if you don't have a process for doing that systematically and quickly, you don't really know when it's going to get there, and you might notice incremental changes, but you might notice a lot of distress along the way. And you can really minimize that, and you minimize your suffering and the suffering of those around you, right? Because strategies that don't work with the survival center is logic, right? Have you ever heard somebody said, well, that, "Oh, I'm so upset right now." Well, that doesn't even make sense. Calm down. And now you're like, calm down, right? Because now you're like, your survival center is in attack mode. And it's like, it doesn't want to be reasonable. Or it says, well, you could just call these people and say that, or you could just, have you ever thought about telling them how you feel? And right, that's a logical strategy that will I almost said a different word, anger your survival center, and you could switch from fight, flight, freeze to faint at will. Like you might be in freeze mode, but now you're in fight mode, or you were in freeze mode, you're fight mode, and now you're in flee mode, and you just bounce back from one of those strategies, and it's just a tangled up mess. And people don't like to be there. And so they will avoid it at all costs, which means that they would rather go ahead and bring things down because they do want peace, they do want comfort, they do want to get along, and they do want that. It's very hard for people to hold out here and make the changes required, right? To get all this stuff. That's a hard thing to do. Very few people can do that. This is why people can't stay on diets. This is why people can't stay in school sometimes. This is why people can't do the things they want to do, that they know and they feel is right for them. Even like, with this whole thing and prejudices and racism going on, or biases, most people look at their bias and they're like, I don't like that, right? But they don't know how to change the bias, right? Because it has to go through the survival system process and the subconscious mind to upgrade to become part of your automatic pilot, right? Otherwise, you're having to use willpower. Okay, I'm not going to judge people. I'm not going to judge people. I'm not going to judge people. Well, that works for a little while until you start thinking about something else. Now you're not paying attention and the judgments come, right? Because your subconscious and your survival center are programmed, right? And then you're back in that thing. Oh, I'm just a bigot. I'm just weak. I'm just one of those weak people. No, your brain works like this. And if you're going to get it to shift to accomplish any one of your dreams, you're going to have to work with how it operates. Otherwise, it's going to be an upward battle, and it's going to be really challenging. And there's going to be suffering, and we don't really need to be suffering to create the changes and to be able to maintain and hold the changes that we want to hold. I'm going to keep reading here. Yeah. Um, in my personal experience, yes, myself and being overweight as a sex abuse survivor, in addition to support groups I have been in, plus my volunteer work as a peer mentor, mental health advocate, this is very common. Yes, this is what we're seeing. And we're seeing people struggle with doing this process of upgrading their belief system. And it is a process, and it's a very simple process if you know what you're doing. But this is not something that we're taught. This is not right when you're in survival mode. You're not saying, hey, how am I going to overhaul this process? I mean, if you're in training and you have experience, that's actually what you start thinking about. That's actually what you start doing, but that's not where you start, right? But when you're here in the place like this, hopefully you're still, I mean, I'm talking about some heavy stuff, but hopefully you're still in a thinking state, and you can say, okay, perhaps this is just a process in my brain. Maybe I could overhaul and think, do, and be whoever I want to be. Yes. This is the time to think about it. The more you think about things like this, the more your subconscious is aware of it. And the next time it happens, you're like, oh, hey, that thought looks like that thought. I'm gonna just grab that and put it in my bucket. That's what the subconscious mind does, right? So if you're focusing on the world's coming to an end, every time you notice that, oh, hey, that matches this thought. Okay, I'm gonna put it in the bucket. Oh, hey, that matches. Okay, bucket, right? And we've got a bucket on abusers, right? Oh, that person looks like an abuser. Oh, because that's the thing. Oh, putting it in there. And now there's all this unsafety, right? But we've got these buckets that we're putting in. I'm going off. But I think you get what I'm talking about. There's subconscious program functions that are happening, that once you are aware of them, you can really start to do with your subconscious whatever you want. Your survival center is like, remember that coat that we put on that was a really heavy coat that kept us from dying at one time? We need to wear that. And it's like, oh yeah, I need that coat. And then you're like, okay, I'm taking the coat off. No, 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 I need this coat. And now it's summer and I still need this coat. Like, that's not functional. Like, that's how, it's like, yeah, it worked one time, and yeah, it could work again in the future, but I don't need it right now. I'd like the choice to take it off, but you don't get that choice if your survival center says you don't get a choice. And it's the boss about survival, right? It's like, once it goes into the survival department, You don't get choices. And so it's really great to be able to work with your survival department to get things out of there so that you get choices again. Because you're going to need a coat, you're going to need a jacket, you're going to need a tank top, a bathing suit. You're going to need lots of things. You don't want to just have to wear the coat everywhere you go. And I'm talking about that for things like marijuana, alcohol, emotional eating, um, uh, arguments, like our survival strategies. That's what it really is. It doesn't matter what form it comes in, it's a survival strategy. I was in a group and they were talking about, he's like, I don't know if this is a survival thing or if this is a just, I'm an adventurous traveling human, right? And and so they, because they grew up traveling a lot, never settling down, and so he's wondering, he's seeing a pattern. He's like, hey, maybe, well, you know what? Your authentic self might be an adventurer, right? And it might also still be kind of like you've got some trauma and some fears in there. So let's take the code out, wash it up so it's just what it is. Like let's take this belief and this need and clean it up, because you still get to keep whatever it is, because you still might be somebody that loves jackets, right? You still might be somebody who loves food, right? But if you clean it up, now you get to do what you want with it. You get to choose. You don't have to stay in the same pattern, same ruts the whole time. So, um, yes. Okay. What are your thoughts about making a dream or vision board for one's life? Okay, interesting. You're touching up on all the things. I love that. But what you're doing when you make a vision board, you are activating subconscious processes, right? You're also activating conscious processes, and you could also be activating survival processes. And so these are very powerful, and they can be very distressing. In the hands of your survival center, that board, you may never get to look at that board ever again. You may never get to finish the board because it decides that everything on that board is dangerous, and I hate that board. And you don't get to have this board. And as long as this board is here, I'm going to make sure you're nauseous, and I'm going to make sure your heart races every time you watch it. Yep. And don't let me start talking to subconscious mind, because I will have them start pulling out why you can't ever accomplish that, right? And now that's going on. And so looking at the board can be very painful. And so there are sometimes I will recommend that for clients, and there's sometimes then I won't. And if it's not recommended, there's other work to be done first, and then you can come back to it. Especially as you learn how to work the process of your subconscious and survival reprogramming, then you really get to enjoy that. Everything that you can't do now, you get to be able to do that. You get to be able to create and restore that function. But sometimes whenever you look at a vision board, you are dealing with subconscious stuff, because your subconscious mind will say, well, hey, what about this? This doesn't match that, because it's your vision board is here and your subconscious programming is there. You're activating this project process intentionally. Now, if you're going to do this and you don't have any tools, you just hold the heck on and don't let your vision board drop and just suffer until it gets there. If you can do that, then there's that, right? But there's a lot of ways to help your subconscious mind shift and grab it. And that's really too complicated for me to discuss in a video like that. That's why I don't discuss it. And also, it can be dangerous if you do it wrong. So because the mind is a powerful and dangerous place. I mean, not, not, I don't think it's, yeah, I don't think that should deter anybody, because it's not. I mean, you just need to know what you're doing. Um, okay, so yes, so I think that's a very powerful thing to be doing, and it can be a really great test. See how you're doing. How close are you? If you can look at the board and you're like, yeah, that looks good. You're in a pretty good place, and then you just need to keep looking at it. Right. If you're on a board and you're just like, oh my gosh, then it's you've got some stuff coming up you need to deal with. Right. Um, I don't know what you're talking about, Michelle, when you say, will you please use I statements, for example, and I personally feel or experienced in my life. I'm happy to do that if you will be a little bit more specific, because I've just gone on 53 minutes, and I could talk about my life like for hours and hours and hours and hours, and all the fascinating things I found. So if you will give me a little bit of specific info, I will do that. Thoughts on DBT and CBT? I just okay. Um, Okay, let me tell you that the truth about mental health work is that all roads lead to the same place. Okay. Having said that, there are some roads that are shorter and there are some roads that are really long. And these interventions are strategies for the thinking center. And so that means that you're working from the top down. Your thinking center is not your strongest part of the brain. It is your most conscious part of the brain. It is your most um, it is a powerful part of the brain. It plays in. I'm not going to say it's better or worse than, but if the survival center is going to get in and shut it down, it's going to get shut down. It doesn't get a choice about that. It's going to still be awesome when you can use it, but if you can't use it, it's not awesome. And so it's what you're doing with DBT is and CBT is you're learning how you're thinking, you're watching your patterns, you're becoming aware. And that is a really healthy piece of this piece. But what happens is you're not moving the emotions from the thinking center into the healing pathways. And so that process, if you just do DBT or CBT, you have to just wait for that process to happen as opposed to intentionally doing this process of moving material from your limbic system, your emotional states into usable form for your brain. And so that process is very fast. The thinking sense process is not. This one can be accomplished immediately. This one can be accomplished in 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I can work through an incredibly horrible traumatic event um, with somebody in minutes, right? Because we're moving emotion and sometimes hours, right? I mean, there's some stuff that's super um, uh, it's super complex, and also sometimes people need a framework built around stuff to be able to go and do that work, and that takes time. But the actual work does never take very long when you're working with the survival center. So because I am about quick results and the elimination of suffering, because I don't like that stuff, I don't use those. I have taken out everything that doesn't just do that movement piece. And so if it, that's, I mean, okay, I'm being a little too general. I don't rely on those. I don't use those. And especially when I first start working with somebody who's very symptomatic, they don't matter at all to me. I don't know. They need to come out of anguish. They need to come out of suffering. Once they're out of suffering, now their thinking center will come back on. And when your thinking center comes back on, usually you're ready for a little bit of information. And that's when I might say some things about, that are CBT or DBT oriented. I think they have some wonderful principles. I love them. I think they're great for therapists. I think they're a great framework for therapists, for research, for things like that. But for treatment and the healing arts, I don't. Um, I think that they are really great for growth, and they can also start building some skills along the way to start creating more healing and less suffering. And that's my main focus, is that suffering aspect. And so that's what I use after I've been working with somebody for a while. Like today, I'm on week 6 with one of my clients. We spent more time talking than we ever did, because her brain is she's not in as much pain as she was, and so her thinking center is on more. If your survival center is on, I am not talking to you. Okay? I'm not talking to you. I'm not going to logic with you. We need to shift you out of suffering. That's what's urgent. That's what your brain needs right now. Something has sent it into danger, and it needs to come back. And it needs to come back into a regulated, calm state. It needs that comfort, and your brain can comfort itself. And once you can begin the process of the brain comforting itself and doing its own work, sky's the limit. That is my that's my main concern. I don't care what you think or what you know. You can be the dumbest human on the planet, and if you're not in pain and suffering, you're going to have a good time. And then you can decide, maybe I want to learn something. Yeah, I have clients that come to me that think they have learning disabilities, and no, their brains don't work properly. And they're in an incredible amount of suffering, and they have to use so much willpower all day long that they can't hear the thoughts that you are speaking to them, because they are so busy trying not to fall apart. And all of a sudden, as they're not falling apart, and I'm not going to DBT them. You have lost your mind. I'm not DBTing or CBTing with them. Call me. Send them for me. I don't care. I'm not doing that. I'm going to help them shift out of suffering, period. And if they don't want that, they come to the wrong person. I'm not doing that. Um, So, but I find when people are in a regulated state and they want to learn more about this and they want to learn more about that, and it's maybe it's time to start weaving in some ideas of radical acceptance, because let me tell you what, if somebody is in the midst of hating themselves, they don't want to hear nothing about no radical acceptance, and they're going to chop your head off. No, thank you. I don't need any of that in my life. Plus, I don't want to be treated like that. So I'm not going to treat somebody else like that. And so I find that once people can move through suffering and get their brains to actually show up, and now they can actually be in their prefrontal cortexes, in their thinking centers where their morals are, their problem solving, they're brilliant. These people are brilliant. So many people that I don't think you have a learning disability. I think you actually might be brilliant under there. Like, I'm just told things and how they conceptualize things and how they've managed to work all of this brain stuff out, and now they're having words for it. And I'm just like, holy crap. That's intense. So I love DBT. I'm glad it's invented. It's brilliant. I love CBT. I think it's brilliant, but it is not the most important thing. It isn't, just not. And that's my stance on that. And there it is. Rachel has shared her opinion. Okay. Um, Okay, yeah. Michelle talks about being raped by somebody in her 30s, and people always ask her, so he was black, right? Those are their biases, right? That's where they've picked up information, and they have a bucket in the back of rapers, right? And so in the bucket is black people, right? And this is what black people are angry about. Like, hey, I didn't ask to be in that bucket, and I shouldn't be in that bucket. I have never raped anyone ever, nor, has anybody that I know. And we're not disproportionately represented in the rape bucket, right? And we don't want to be. So, but what happens is that people have to start being able to work through their own buckets. I have some biases and prejudice stuff that just was stored improperly um, because of what was going on at the time. And it's really dumb. And so it's not a logical process back there in our subconscious programming. It's not logical. These people don't say, oh, I want to, I mean, some people do, but but yes, there are lots of assumptions that our brain is wired like this, and we need to know that, because then we can work on it and say, oh, I know where that's coming from, and let me just process that a little bit and see what really comes out, right? Because once the emotion is processed and turned into usable human form, then we can actually look at it from that angle, and then it's like all of a sudden our brain knows exactly what to do with it. But before, it's just emotional pre-processing, and that's not it. We can't really do anything, but we have all the feelings about it. We have all that. And so okay. Okay, EFT, EMDR. Yes, those ones actually work with the survival center. EFT is emotional freedom techniques. It is the intervention I use to move my anxiety and trauma disorder into remission. I still use that a lot. It's fabulous. If and it's something I feel confident giving to clients without any skills, because there are no known side effects. It's really difficult to hurt yourself with that, and I have never seen it happen. And so I'm like, yes, do the things. Take this and run with it. I teach you how to do that very strategically. If you pick it up, and there's people on YouTube teaching that. It's great. You can just start using it. If you've got an anxiety, depression, or trauma disorder, you will need deeper strategies. But when you first start using it, you will start to feel better. You will start to feel amazing, because you're helping your survival center and your inner healer do the work that they can do. And once you're doing that once, you're like, I can do it twice. And yes, you can do it twice. Do it twice. And then do it 2 times. Do it 2,000 times. And get your brain function back. That is absolutely powerful. EMDR, EMDR, same things, working with the helping the brain heal itself, and it's very powerful. EMDR, you can hurt yourself with. EMDR has sent people to inpatient and to the ER for mental health traumas, psychosis, things like that, increased suicidal ideation and maybe planning and things like that. Danger, right? So I don't hand that one over right away until you have some skills. But yes, you can actually learn EMDR for yourself and rock that out. You can start using it whenever you like. Their thought-filled therapy is phenomenal. Eden Energy Medicine is phenomenal. Brain spotting. There's lots of stuff out there that's really, really great. And that work with the survival center. And they are different. They are different interventions. They are using the body to heal itself and the body's systems, which is what your survival system cares about. It doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're in emotional agony. So what? I mean, it does, but eventually it's like the emotional agony affects the body, and now it's got a problem. It wants your body to be okay and to be alive and to survive. That's its job. And so you have to incorporate the mind and the body to do the work, as opposed to just relying on. That's what DBT and CBT, they're working on the thinking center, and that's the awareness piece, but it doesn't do anything with the body. And to get your survival system rolling, you've got to combine the body with the mind. And they need that reconnection. Many people who go through trauma are very disconnected in their mind and their body. And that has to be reconnected and integrated. And that helps return function. And now you're connecting, not only you've got your thinking center, your survival center, and your subconscious mind, now you've got your body. And if you've been raped, that's a thing, right? You have that disconnection, that dissociation. And or if I've had people with bedwetting issues. Like now they're just like, they're like, I can't trust my body, because not cool, and so not still with bedwetting issues, but had bedwetting trauma as children, and so they have a disconnection and distrust there with their body. We don't work well like that because we're divided. We need to come back together and integrate, and that's part of the wonderfulness of all this healing stuff. Okay. Okay, and yes, so Michelle says, I used to have a list of healthy adult activities from a DBT class. Okay, that's fabulous. But if you're in a survival mode that says you're going to go to sleep, oh, you tried to get dressed and you had an outfit on that made you remind you of the trauma, that's too much pain. We're going to sleep. And you're in the next 10 minutes, you're knocked out, because that actually happens. That's one of the reasons why people with depression, anxiety, and traumatic stress sleep so much, is because that's a survival state. That is not a choice. They're not just lazy sleeping around. Their survival center said sleep is our best survival strategy right now. And good night. Done. You can't argue your way through that. That's faint mode. And so no, people aren't stronger than their brain, and so they have to go to sleep, and they don't know why, and they can't be conscious about that because now they've been told by everyone else that you're just lazy. Not true. But if you go into sleep mode, you're not going to that class, and now guess what? You think you're worse off than you were when you began, and that you are really the problem. Something's wrong with you. No, there's something wrong with that list. Nobody who's depressed is going to go do all those things. Or if you're socially anxious, or you feel like you're going to die from this thing because anxiety, right? You're not going to the class, so you're not going to benefit from the thing, and now you're the one with the problem. Well, if you would have done some of the things on the list, right? Hello, I'm in survival mode, and in survival mode it's fight, flight, freeze, or faint. Not yoga, breathing, take your dog on a walk. I mean, walking is good, right? But it's not one of the vast strategies that it's going to reach for. And if you go try to do these things, you're going to experience all the buttons being pushed. You're going to go there with your nausea. You're going to go there with your irritable bowel. You're going to go there with your racing heart. You're going to go there with your mind racing in circles. No, that's not good. I don't like that. I'm not doing that. I do not advocate for that. And I think that is nonsense. That's all from Rachel. And I think we're at the end of the list. Now, I do want you to take your dog to the park. I do want you to do yoga. I do want you to meditate. I do want you to do all of those things. And guess what? You will. Someone with a healthy brain cannot be held down in bed. When you get your teammates on, you can't hold you back from doing the things that you want to do. You can't hold you back from your passions. You can't hold you back from any of those things. So it's coming. Do the right work, and it's all coming. It's all coming to you. You get everything you need back. You get everything you want back. Okay? So that's really what I want to share today. I'm gonna get off because this is a long video. And I love that. This was great. Thank you so much, Michelle Gelman. Great questions. And Colas, thanks for being here. Al, good job. Nice questions. You really put me out there and helped me to question some of my thoughts and also share more about who I am and what I do. I appreciate that. I will see you all around, and till next time.